So how far you? Where are you coming from in Virginia? Well, thank you for that. Oh, okay, good. We have roughly about 2 minutes before we hit. And just in terms of music, we definitely stay on the independent.
Ocean.
All right, good morning, peace and love, and welcome to the Peace in the Morning Show. This is Darius Stanton here live at www.elifemedia.net. That's www.elifemedia.net. Ladies and gentlemen, in some places it's bright and sunshiny. In some places it's raining. In some places it's just cloudy and a little gray. But wherever you are, in some places it's pitch black midnight. But wherever you are, the sun, remember this, is always shining. And that's where we come from here at the Peace in the Morning Show in terms of our asset-based approach to addressing challenges and situations. Because there's always something going on, and it may not always be positive, but we want to make sure that we set that tone. Today we have the very great fortune of talking about a subject that people probably put on the side burner, kind of dismiss it, and only think that it's in place with children. But guess what? That is not the case. Today we're going to be talking about attention deficit disorder, ADD, and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, not with children, but with adults. And the person that's going to bring this awareness to us, and she did it in a very articulate fashion this past weekend, as well as throughout the country, is none other than Miss Virginia 2016. I should have said your name first. Marta Bota, correct?
That's okay, yes, absolutely.
Marta Bota, I should have said your name first because before you were Miss 2016, Miss Virginia 2016, you were Marta Bota.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it. So welcome to the Peace in the Morning show.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
We're excited about having, just the pageantry, and people don't really realize, some maybe do because there are a lot of reality shows today. So you get a chance to see the behind the scenes, the crazy scenes, all of those things that go into it. But to actually be selected as Miss Virginia and then go on to serve in the national competition is quite a feat.
It certainly is. It's people don't realize all that goes on behind the scenes in pageantry. Pageantry came into my life in my early 20s. I was scouted for the Miss USA, Miss New York pageant. I grew up in New York City, and I pushed it away. I was always the type of person that I didn't like to be front and center. I really liked to be behind the scenes. And so I decided to not do it back in those days. And then recently, in 2013, I was scouted for the Mrs. DC America pageant. And that was when I started. I decided to give it a try because the director, Raquel Riley Thomas, was very persistent. She saw that I was an advocate for ADHD. I have ADHD, and my son has ADHD. And I would post a lot of things on my Facebook. And she brought to my attention that pageantry is about advocacy, and that you have this platform. And when you wear a sash and crown, people want to talk to you. People want to hear what you have to say. So I decided, you know what?
To use it as a platform.
I'm going to use it as a platform. And that's the reason that I went into pageantry. You know, every woman that goes into pageantry has different goals and objectives, and mine was completely advocacy. I would have loved if I didn't have to go on stage and compete because I was more about, bringing the platform forward. So that
I'm going
was...
to bring this to you just a little bit. I think that, just a little bit.
Closer.
Just a little bit.
Okay.
Just a little closer.
Okay, great.
Now don't be shy.
Yes.
There you go.
So I decided to go for it and run for Mrs. DC America. My local title was Mrs. DuPont Circle, and my platform was ADHD awareness, diagnosis, and treatment. And what I really wanted to get the message across was, if you're aware of what's going on, you can get a diagnosis. You need to get the right diagnosis, and then you know how to handle it and how to treat it. And there's so many treatment options today. So I started a network called the ADHD Help and Hope Network on Facebook. I have about almost 5,000 followers, and I just post about navigating through it, whether you're a child or an adult. And so that's where I am today. And then I did not win the title of Mrs. DC. I continued to work my platform as I do continue today, and then I decided to try out for the Ms. America pageant. And so I received the title of Ms. Virginia, and I went to nationals last year, Labor Day weekend 2016. I didn't win the title of Ms. America, but I continued to follow through with my reign until earlier this year in March. So it's been a great run, and I continue to do work. I mean, I'm an advocate. I've been one since I'm a very young person, and I will continue to be one. So.
Wow. So just the path that you've taken, I think a lot of people, when they see or hear about Miss America or just competing at that level, they think of beauty. They think of the ability to be able to articulate, but it's really centered around, people focus on the external.
Absolutely.
And what we're hearing you to say today is it's really based on using beauty as a attractor, but then to immediately catch them and put the information out there and your platform. And the fact that you wanted to be involved because of that that mere fact. But talk a little bit about, one of the things that we're excited, what we promote, children, young people, adults that are actually in the position of going to the next level, and how we push and promote people to get there. And I know for you, there were some challenges you had early on in school, and it was real difficult for you to kind of persevere and go to make it to the next level and go on to get your degree in high school and then in the college. Talk a little bit about what that was like for you, even though externally, you were, what most would say, a beautiful lady or a young girl, but you were still dealing with a lot of pain, a lot of challenge, a lot of anxiety. What was that like, and what took you through that process?
Well, it was very difficult. Back in the day when I was growing up, ADHD was not even a word in the vocabulary. Nobody knew what it was. And I was going to school, and I was really gifted. I was really intelligent naturally. So I was placed in the IGC program in New York City, which is for intellectually gifted children. So I was put into advanced classes, but I really struggled keeping up with the workload. For me personally, I would do really well taking, standardized tests. I was reading and doing math grade levels ahead of myself, 3 to 4 grade levels ahead. So they were always placing me in advanced classes, but the workload was just coming at me at such a fast pace. I really struggled. And that's exactly what happens when you have ADHD. There's that discrepancy between your intellect and then what you can process and how your brain operates. ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity, or ADD, attention deficit disorder, it's a neurodevelopmental disorder that affects the prefrontal cortex of the brain, and it affects certain areas of executive function, how you organize. It's inattentive, it's impulsivity, and people highly misunderstand it. And so it has nothing to do with intellect, and that's where I think it gets stigmatized.
Right.
People think that you're not as smart if you have ADHD. It has nothing to do with your intellect.
I think if we could stop right there for a moment. I think because we have so many people out there, and I definitely encourage folks who are checking us out on Facebook Live to go to www.elifemedia.net. That's www.elifemedia.net. So you can get the full spectrum of the Queen in the House, Miss America 2016.
Thank you.
You see she has her tiara, as well as her banner. But being able to help people understand that ADD, because there's a stigma attached to it. And depending upon the type of parents you have, if you have the type of parents who are going to, there's some people who are, you would call, that are not attractive physically, from the outside. And people would not say that they were attractive. As my grandmother would say, don't call people ugly, call them different looking. Mm-hmm. And so, people who maybe you consider different looking, but they are just as confident, just as strong. And in most cases, the reason being is because they had parents that taught them how to love themselves and how to feel good about who they are and to encourage them.
Absolutely.
But when you have other people that are in professional roles, tell you that your child has a particular ailment, disorder, disease, disability, and you take it for granted that first and foremost this initial authority is correct, and then you place it on your child, let alone the parents, God forgive them, who talk to their children like dogs and call their children all kinds of names, including stupid, dumb, and any other. I won't even go into the litany of names. I remember being a child in Baltimore City, and we would be at Lexington Market, Mondawmin Mall, anywhere on the street. And if my mother saw somebody talking to their child, way overboard, or she would pull them up right there on the street. Would you like for somebody to talk to you like that? Don't talk to that child like that.
Right.
But unfortunately, there's so many people who went through that themselves.
Absolutely. And that's, when I was going to school, as I was saying, I was in the advanced classes, but I wasn't able to keep up. And I always got the report on my report card. Marta needs to learn how to focus. Marta doesn't pay attention in class. Marta gets distracted easily, not knowing that that's part of ADHD. And then I would go home with grades that, I wasn't keeping up, so I would get in trouble or, get punished. And it got to a point, it was so anxiety-ridden for me, especially when I got into middle school. I was testing so high on my reading and math that they put me in an advanced class that I was supposed to skip from 6th to 8th grade. So you can imagine in the 6th grade, they were covering the entire 6th grade curriculum, and then half of 7th grade, and then the same thing when I got into 8th. So halfway through the school year, I just felt overwhelmed, which is a very normal emotion and feeling for people who have ADHD. And so I started not wanting to go to school. So I would tell my mom, I don't feel well today, I don't feel well, I don't feel well. My mother was taking me to the doctor, she was worried about me. And it got to a point that she was starting to not believe me. So I had to get really creative. I just did not want to go to school. So I would do crazy things to just not go to school. I remember one day I took a washcloth, put it under the hot water, put it on my head, and then went into my mom's room. I think I have a fever, Mom. She thought I had a fever.
Right.
And then I remember mixing up this concoction of vomit. I went into the refrigerator in the middle of the night and took milk and juice and all our leftovers and poured it in my bed and said, Mom, I don't feel well. I threw up just because I didn't want to go to school. That's how bad it was.
Sure.
Because you're hearing negative things, feedback from your teachers, negative feedback from the adults in your life, from your parents. So you really, the thing that I say is the hardest part of ADHD and the number one side effect is low self-esteem.
Right.
Even though that's not a symptom, it becomes a side effect. Because it's so highly misunderstood. You have inattentiveness, impulsivity, you're unable to organize yourself, plan ahead.
Right.
It affects your executive function of your brain. So
and the way the school is structured, if you don't fall into that exact mode, then they work to really discredit you. If you don't fit the mold of all the 22 students or however many other students in that class, then there's no individualization or let me not be general. That's one of the things we work on to do here on the Peace in the Morning show is not to generalize.
Right.
But there are very few instances, unless there are programs now, Montessori schools and others that really focus on the individual as well and help to build the individual up. But school is very much in the traditional nature cattled and grouped.
Yes.
And if you do not fit the mold of the group, the greatest number, then those exceptional children who may have all types of skills, and if they don't have the parents to support them and go out of their way to make sure I've got to find a way to make my child successful,
absolutely,
then you really have a challenge. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to give a little positive news just to let people know that there's some things going on out here in our community that are positive, that young people are doing and seeing. And we will have the pleasure of talking again with Miss Virginia 2016 Marta Boda. And we want you to call us at 240-455-5934. That's 240-455-5934. Because we want to know, what are you seeing with regard to ADHD and ADD? And do you have it as an adult? Are you disorganized? Are you a perpetual procrastinator and just can't understand why? You try to do things, but you can't quite get them done? Well, we're going to talk about that. And also, what are some of the solutions here on the Peace in the Morning show. Welcome back to the Peace of the Morning Show. Darius A. Stanton, and I'm here with Miss Virginia 2016, Marta Bota. Marta, so you your name originally comes from the Bible and Martha, correct?
Yes.
But you happen to have a very unique combination of who makes up Marta Bota.
Yes.
Italian.
My father was Italian, my Southern Italian. My mother was born and raised in Cuba, Havana, Cuba. She had an interesting mix. She was French, Spaniard, with a little bit of Chinese in her. And so I definitely have an interesting genetic mix.
No doubt. Like most of us, people who may not really want to recognize and acknowledge it, everybody has African in the blood because we're the origin of human beings come from the planet. So for those who are having problems with people of another color, we got to get over that. But in addition to that, I tell you, I've been to Cuba, and it was probably one of the best trips in my entire life. And spent an entire week there. The people are wonderful. It's very warm in terms of the people. It was warm temperature-wise as well. We did go during the summer. We took an international basketball team and competed in a group of art students and competed in an international junior tournament with Puerto Rico, Mexico, Cuba, and the United States, which we coached. But it was a great experience. Cuba has the highest literacy rate in the entire Western Hemisphere.
Amazing.
98% of Cubans are able to read at grade level, which is incredible.
Amazing, and they've got some great athletes too.
Great
baseball players.
And then they have some phenomenal doctors. During the time when SARS was out, Cuba sent doctors to China to help them. Trinidad, at one point in time, the doctors there actually went on a strike. Mm-hmm. And Cuba sent 90 doctors there and got their system back up and running in like 30 days. So Cuba has definitely been, they have a image that is portrayed of the country, but, people struggle here. Mm-hmm. There are people here who are having a hard time finding to pay their bills, hard time finding food to eat, that are working every day.
Absolutely.
And so, yes, they do have some struggles there, but the spirit of the people is beautiful, and they're very bright and intelligent, and really a great place. So, and I did actually, there's a town there called Regular, and it's an interesting mix. You have women that were the complexion maybe of an African American or African dark brown skin. Their hair was long, and it was basic, and they were speaking, and their eyes were slanted. It was the Chinatown mm-hmm. of Cuba, but yes. A real village versus just a few blocks.
Yes.
And they had, but they spoke Spanish. So imagine that mix, right?
Well, that's why, it's really underestimated. When I tell people that I have some Chinese in me, they're like, what? But there were a lot of Chinese in Cuba.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, absolutely.
So when we took the pause, before we took the pause, we were talking about attention deficit disorder.
Yes.
As well as ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And we actually had somebody call in. Our good friend Ed Reed, we call each other the A-Team. Ed Reed is a school counselor, was the president of the Maryland State School Counselor Association, also does leadership work with the John Maxwell team, and just started a new venture called Next Generation. So he's a very dynamic brother, speaker, author, just authored a book that we just purchased. And we're going to have him here on the show, a friend of both of ours, whom we met
Absolutely.
Through Larry White. Shout out to Larry White, the VIP concierge, for bringing us together.
Yes.
Ed, are you on the line?
Darius, Martha, I'm right here with you.
You're right here with us? All right. Well, good morning, Mr. Ed Reed. Welcome to the Peace of the Morning Show.
Hey, good morning. It's such a blessing to be able to be here, listening to the two of you. I'm at home doing daddy duty. My daughter's sick. So I'm able to have the ability to join you guys on the show for a few minutes.
Excellent. So Ed, you're a professional school counselor, and you have your own story that we'll let you tell when you come on the Peace of the Morning show as well. But from a counseling perspective, when you hear Marta talk about the struggles of ADHD and ADD, school counselors, of course, get involved in children's ages, right away in elementary school. But how do you see it playing out, when it's missed and they go on into life not knowing that they have this challenge? How does that kind of play out, Ed, from your perspective as a school counselor? And then, we're going to also get into what can be done.
Absolutely.
Because right now, you have two things. You have parents who don't know that they're diagnosed. We have a good friend who said he was just diagnosed 30 days ago with ADD and ADHD and had no idea that his whole life he was kind of running from one thing to the next, not able to follow through. It was impacting his relationships. His dates would think that he just didn't want to be with them.
Right, and those are the things I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
How it affects you in your adulthood.
Right, so we're going to get into that. But Ed, from a school counselor's perspective, how does that impact, what you see every day in your profession?
Sure, absolutely. And hey, look, and tell Martha to get a little closer to that mic when she speaks.
Okay.
So here's the piece. When we look at kids, young people who have this ADHD or ADD, and you miss the diagnosis, and they grow off to go into that adult world, it's a missed opportunity to create a higher level of self-awareness. And so when we talk about self-awareness, then as we increase our self-awareness, then we're able to increase how we manage ourselves.
Absolutely, and that's exactly why my platform was ADHD awareness. That's the first part of the puzzle. Diagnosis, getting the right diagnosis, and then you can manage it with the right treatment. So I completely agree. And, when it comes to parents that have children with ADHD, it's so important that they educate themselves, that they advocate for their child, and they support their child. They really need to work as a team with the school, with the teachers. They need to make the teachers aware of what particular issues their child has, because it's different. I tell everyone that ADHD is as different as an individual's fingerprint. Everyone gets affected differently. For me, I was a very quiet, shy girl. I was not disruptive in the classroom, so I fell through the cracks because, a lot of people think of ADHD an out-of-control, wild person. Now,
Right.
My son, he's 24 now. He, was never disruptive in the classroom, but definitely more hyper and more,
Sure.
he was a little more disruptive in general. And so it affects everyone differently.
Right.
And that's why you really need to understand yourself or understand your child so that you can manage it correctly and really get them to reach their full potential.
And before we let you go, there was some work you posted on the Facebook page called Check Out Young Zhao.
Right.
And that's ZHAO.
ZHAO.
Young Zhao, ZHAO.
So let me throw this one out there. Two quick points. Point number one, not only do you have to have a level of self-awareness, but you also have to have an awareness of the terrain that you're going to be traveling on.
Absolutely.
And so you got to combine what you know about yourself, how you learn, so that you can look at how you think, which is going to impact how you study. But you also got to know how to navigate the terrain that you're in. And so, Darius, as you said earlier, there's those kids who fit the mold. But if you're a kid who doesn't fit the mold, but you got to understand as a parent, you have to understand what is that terrain, what is that culture of the school, and then what is it what is the end result? What is your desired outcome of going through this schooling process?
Absolutely.
And so that resource that I put over there, now Young Zhao, he's one of the thought leaders in educational transformation. And so when you get a chance, you go on his website, and I put a link to the website, and go on to his presentations and check out his slides. But basically what he talks about is the need to really focus on the creativity, the artistic side of young people, the creativity side, the creative side, because right now, if we go back, and not to give you a long lecture, but I'll be real quick with this, look at 100 years ago or so what was the purpose of the school system?
Right,
And
absolutely.
how much has it changed? And the school system across the country, for the most part, it was designed to produce good workers in factories, in manufacturing.
Absolutely.
That's why we have the cattle approach.
That's right. I
Absolutely.
call it, you can go into a classroom and you can see cemetery rows. Right? And, but and if you go back and you check out this, is that early, it's when public school first arrived, it was really looking at how to teach kids to be docile and obedient and do rote memory, be great workers.
Right.
But it didn't focus on those thinkers. Now, you take these young people with ADHD.
Absolutely.
Now, here's the beauty of it, is that you got some of the most creative people who they can get hyper-focused on a particular thing. And if you tap into their creativity, you'll find out they can bring some of the new solutions to things, but yet then there's an esteem issue, because if you're on the terrain and everyone's supposed to be marching like soldiers, but you want to run the lines and go zig and zag because you don't see it the way they see it, you might be the one that meets the discovery because you're zigging and zagging while everyone else is marching straight. And marching straight might not be the way to go.
Right,
Ed, you make a really good point, and I appreciate you joining us. Ed Reed. Ed, before you roll, tell us the name of your book. You have a book that you just authored?
Oh, sure. I'm a co-author in a book called Stepping into Courage.
Into Courage.
But Darius, the next one that's coming out soon, is endurance. And my chapter is called The Race Isn't Over Until You Win. And I map out strategies to help people become winners, because everybody has a winner within them. Everybody has a gift inside of them.
Well, that's
and as adults,
and that's part of our conversation here on the Peace in the Morning Show. Win, win, win. Thank you so much, Mr. Ed Reed,
School
Counselor Association, Maryland President here in the state of Maryland. Thank you so much. Past President. Thanks so much for joining us.
Y'all take care.
On the Peace in the Morning Show.
Thank you. Bye, Ed.
So,
Yes.
Marta, Ed touched on two things that I think were very, very important. And if anyone else has a question or comment for Marta, please give us a call, because we're now going to talk about some of those things that you see as adults.
Yes.
But before we get to that, he talked about something that I thought was really key. That there are really two tracks. One is self-awareness. Please look up self-efficacy. We talk a lot about that here.
Yes.
But in addition to the awareness, then, when I talk to people about school, college, don't go to school just based on the curriculum that's set. Look at the curriculum and look at your goals, and follow the curriculum that meets your goals, not just what they say you want to do or they think you should do. Pair it up. And so the same thing applies when you have a challenge that's outside of the norm. You want to be able to look at that challenge, be aware of that challenge, and then match up, as he said, the environment that you're going to go into.
Absolutely.
And develop the skills to work within that environment.
Absolutely.
Because you have to come out of the cookie cutter mode.
Yes, and the good news is today, because I talked about my anxiety when I was a child, but things are different. We have so much information at our fingertips. People are aware of these disorders. They're still stigmatized, but that's my whole goal, is to destigmatize, that it has nothing to do with your intellect. And how I see it is ADHD can be a gift or a curse, and you have that choice. Most people with ADHD, they are outside of the box thinkers. They can be entrepreneurs like myself. They're creative, they're artistic, and you need to really find, especially when you're a parent looking at your child, everybody has a gift. Find what your child's gifts are.
Find that
really
passion.
focus
Find
on
that
that.
gift.
Yes, and that helps build the self-esteem for the child. So that's why it's important to work as a partnership with the school. And another part of the destigmatizing that I want to really bring up is people get so afraid when they hear about special ed, if kids are in a special ed program. Today they call it an IEP, an individualized education program, and it's really important for children with these kinds of issues to get an individualized education program, to really see how they can be successful in school. Maybe that child needs preferential seating. They need to sit in front of the classroom where there's less distraction, and they can focus on what the teacher's teaching, the blackboard. There's computer programs such as Blackboard.com where the child can, if they didn't write down their assignment, which is very common with kids with ADHD, they forget to write down their assignments, they can go back on Blackboard and check. And that's something that when I work with teachers, I really remind them, use that Blackboard program, because a lot of kids really depend on it. And some teachers are not as, they don't use it as much as they should. Maybe they need a few extra minutes for their test taking, because with ADHD, it's a processing issue. And sometimes you need to read the directions several times before you get what they're asking for.
Sure.
So
and the pressure of the time and knowing that the significance of the test, the grade.
Absolutely, the anxiety. So there are ways that you can work as a partner with the school. And, I tell parents, educate, advocate, and support your children. What makes ADHD so difficult is it is hereditary and it runs in families. So sometimes you're dealing with an ADHD parent like myself, and then you have an ADHD child.
Right.
So you're overwhelmed by the overwhelming symptoms that your child has. So and
you don't even, and then in the cases where you don't even know and understand what you're dealing with.
Exactly. So in my case, I was not diagnosed until I was going through the diagnosis of my son. My son was struggling. He managed to get through in elementary school, but when he got to middle school, where there were multiple teachers with multiple assignments, it became overwhelming. It was like an avalanche. So I decided, in talking to his pediatrician, we decided to have him evaluated. And when I was sitting down in that doctor's office, filling out the questionnaire of the symptoms that my son had, I realized, oh my goodness, this is me, this is me, this is me. And I basically got diagnosed about the same time as my son. And then the light bulb went off. I thought, wow, this is why I struggled so much. And I really wanted my son not to struggle like that.
Sure.
So I had, the compassion for him and the understanding that, he needs to take extra time and he needs to work harder than the guy next to him.
Right.
And, we would have these homework battles. Homework is really hard for children with ADHD because focusing in a classroom all day long for 7 or 8 hours, it's fatiguing. They come home tired and then they're faced with 3 hours of homework. So how I structured it with my son, I would let him blow off some steam. He'd go shoot some hoops, come back in when he was ready to focus, do his homework in small pieces. He'd come in, he'd start doing his homework. When he started losing focus, he'd stretch a little bit or have something to eat. So there are so many different ways to manage it. And the thing I really wanted to talk about before we run out of time is CHAD. CHAD is a national nonprofit organization that I'm an ambassador for.
Okay. One of our council members, that watches the show, Councilmember McCarthy, also recommended CHAD. So there are other folks out there. So definitely check out CHAD. Because it definitely is a resource for folks. Go ahead.
Yes, it's the national resource for people who struggle with ADHD, and it's www.chadd.org. And it really is, I think, such an amazing website because they have so many ways, so many resources available. You can learn about it so you can understand what you're dealing with. They have parent-to-parent webinars, which trains parents how to deal with children. They have teacher programs, how to teach, how to train teachers how to deal with kids with ADHD. They have a bi-monthly magazine that's chock full of articles that deal with ADHD, whether you're dealing with it as a child or as an adult. They have a national conference annually. They have an advocacy page, which I am on with several other TV personalities and athletes that they call us ADHD champions because we've beat the odds and we've become successful. And that's why, I want to be the face of ADHD. I want people to see that you can be successful in your life. I have a very successful career as a celebrity makeup artist. You can do so many things. You don't have to let this stop you at all.
So as you mentioned, time is winding down. And for those of you that we got a note on Facebook Live that are watching us, and you notice that it's reversed, and so what you see behind us, just tune in directly to www.elifemedia.net. That's www.elifemedia.net. You get a chance to see the full spectrum of the show, the program. We share it on Facebook Live just to have it access to more people. But go to www.elifemedia.net and you'll be able to see the show in its full spectrum. The challenges, though, let's talk to people a little bit about what you experienced as an adult.
Okay.
And what, relationship
Yes.
and work and,
Yes.
and how those things, so people can say aha, and that aha moment can come about, and then they can go out and do something about it, and we'll talk about the solutions next.
Absolutely. So, as an adult, ADHD, some people outgrow it in the sense where their symptoms are not as pronounced. As an adult, it's a little bit easier navigating because I think the hardest part of ADHD is sitting in a classroom. Learning, everyone has different learning styles, and that is where I think it hits the hardest. But it also hits it depending on your career. If you're working in an office, if you have certain responsibilities, it can be as daunting as it isn't when you're in school, which is why, for me, I wasn't diagnosed, but somehow, my artistry as a child was very therapeutic for me, and as I morphed into an adult, and because I was attractive on the outside, I was scouted for modeling and all these other things, and I started modeling, but didn't like it. I really liked the behind the scenes, and so I kind of transitioned my career from model into makeup artist, where I was able to use that creativity. And as a result, I don't have a 9-to-5 job. I have a different office every day. I freelance. So one day I'm in a TV studio, and the next day I'm doing a makeup lesson, or I'm doing a bridal makeup or red carpet makeup. And so I write for 2 different publications. And
So you were able to mix your passion
yes,
with your challenge
yes,
and be successful.
be very successful. And that's the key, finding what works for you as an adult, the right career path.
Right.
A lot of people that have ADHD, there are certain career paths that are better for you. And that's what I love about Chad and also about my network.
And also, excuse me for cutting you off, you also mentioned the fact that because you were seen externally as attractive, people wanted you to model. And they would tell you that. And so it's important for us to understand, even as adults, not to get caught up in what other people say about you, whether it's good or bad, and make that your passion. They can't determine your passion. They can't determine your God-given gift.
Absolutely.
That's not their role. And people do it both from a good heart perspective and a bad heart perspective, and being negative towards people. But they think automatically because you're this or you're that, you should play basketball. You're tall, you should play basketball. Or if you're more physically developed, you should play football. Or if they see you, you're attractive on the outside, you should model. Or, so automatically people have perceptions.
Absolutely.
And then, especially people that we look up to, and so then you work naturally to try to meet other people's expectations.
Right.
Instead of working to meet your own.
That's exactly, and that's the key, self-awareness, just like our friend Ed Reed was just talking about. It's about self-awareness, and that's always the first step, is knowing yourself, where your challenges, where your strengths are. And for me, I always tell people, build up those weaknesses. Focus on your strengths, but you can build up those weaknesses.
That's
you can
right.
strengthen yourself. And that is why I have the ADHD Help and Hope Network on Facebook. I help navigate.
So what is it again? That on Facebook you have the
Facebook,
say it again?
yes, it's the ADHD Help and Hope Network.
Okay.
And it's a public page that I basically help people navigate through ADHD. I really help uplift them and make them see it as a positive thing.
Okay.
Because, for me personally, I have so much energy because I'm so hyper
Sure.
that I get more done in one day
Right.
than most people get done in a month.
Right.
I can multitask.
Okay.
I write for 2 publications. I have always different projects going on in my business. I do a lot of philanthropy work. I don't just focus on ADHD. As Ms. Virginia America 2016, my platform was blindness prevention. I work with the Blindness Foundation, and that's a whole other chapter we can get into maybe on another show. But today I wanted to focus on the ADHD. But I've worked with so many different organizations over the course of my year. There were weeks that I was making 10 appearances a week, plus my job and my family. And so, I can multitask like there's no tomorrow. And that's my gift.
Right.
And so that's why I always tell people, look at it as a positive, see it as a gift, because your brain can you have so
You
many.
can shift gears.
You can shift gears.
Where a lot of people are not able to shift gears.
Right.
On the
right.
dime.
Absolutely.
And be well and do well in those multiple platforms.
Absolutely.
So use it as a gift.
Absolutely.
Make it asset-based.
Asset-based.
There you go.
And that's exactly it. And that's why my network is really more positive. I really want to give people that hope and that help. And I point them a lot to Chad, because Chad really helped me navigate through ADHD with my son as I was trying to parent, and I was getting overwhelmed and breaking down, trying to raise a kid that was struggling. And it really helped me. So I post a lot about Chad and just how much of a resource. They have local chapters, they have support groups. It's such an amazing.
Well, I want to thank you for using your platform to bring people to an awareness, but not just an awareness. People always talk about the problem.
Right.
Always addressing the problem, and very seldomly are they focused on the solution.
Absolutely, and that's what you need to do. You need to
so
focus
when
on
we
the
come, we're going to take a quick music break, not maybe 2 minutes if that. But when we come back, we're going to talk about solutions. So we ask you to hold on, work with us, share this, because when we come back to the Peace in the Morning show, we're going to share the solutions and how you can take ADHD and ADD and make them work for you when you find your passion. So hashtag find your passion, push your passion. And we'll be right back on the Peace in the Morning show with Miss Virginia 2016, Marta Boda. Want to miss it. A lot of good information, a lot of good music, a lot of entertainment. T.I.'s brother will be there in the building. John Wall's nephew, DeAndre Wall with Wallway, will be the Wallway Foundation. He'll be in the building. Hip-hop artist, just a number performing. Siva. We have live jazz in the building. It's going to be an awesome production. You want to get out there this coming Sunday at the Howard Theater from 12 to 8. It's a day party. Party with a purpose. Funk it on up. No doubt about it. So you want to check that out. Also this weekend in the Baltimore region, the Baltimore County African American Heritage Festival. The Baltimore County African American Heritage Festival will be this Saturday, all day from 9 to 6 in the evening. So that's the Baltimore Heritage Festival, African American Heritage Festival, Baltimore County, on Saturday the 16th. So come on out. Mr. Peace and Love himself will be there moderating an education panel. But there'll be music and food and vendors. It's a really nice event at the Towson Town Center, not the mall itself, but the city government. So just put in Towson government, and you'll find it. You can find it on the web. Baltimore County African American Health and Heritage Festival. And the Kunta Kinte Festival is coming up September 23rd, and eLife Media Peace in the Morning show will be live at the Kunta Kinte Festival. So come on out and check us out. September 23rd, City Dock in Annapolis, Maryland, capital of the city, the state of Maryland, rather. Come back, because Marta will get nice and neat on the microphone. I'm here live with the Peace in the Morning show. This is Darius Stanton. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We ask you to share the show if you get a chance to let people know what's going on. We're dealing with a very important issue with the Queen of Virginia. What about Virginia? Virginia, y'all. Miss Marta Boda, who was Miss Virginia America 2016. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
You know the great thing about you, Marta, and being here in person, not just that you were Miss America, Miss Virginia America 2016, and not, you're Cuban, has Cuban descent in as part of your heritage, and a beautiful woman, but your genuineness. You can just, and the fact that you've decided to take your time and your energy to help other people find their passion, meet their challenge, and then put those two things together and become successful in using those things to their advantage versus a deficit, which in so many cases in our society people do. So I just wanted to take a moment and say how much we appreciate you not only coming on the show and what we call our dearly beloved, the folks who watch the Peace in the Morning show every day, but we appreciate the fact that you're taking your time and your energy and your spirit and you're pouring into other people. You found something that was working and addressed in your own family with yourself and your son, but then you said, that's not enough. I've got to go beyond that. I've got to help other people. So I want to thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
No doubt for doing that. So before the break, we talked about making finding solutions.
Yes.
To the challenges that once you identify that you have this. So what are some of the things first of all, you described it as a neurological challenge.
Yes.
And so if it's neurological, that means that we have to do things to feed the brain.
Absolutely.
And others. So share some of the solutions to ADD, ADHD, please.
Okay. Well, backtracking, as I told you, my platform is awareness. Diagnosis. You want to make sure you get the proper diagnosis.
Okay.
And the diagnosis, if you see that your child's struggling, you talk to the pediatrician and they can have you go to a specialist. Or if you're an adult, you want to go to a specialist, either a neurologist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist. And you want to get a full, thorough evaluation, which would be an educational, neurological, psychological evaluation. So they can see, well, are there any other things going on? Sometimes trauma, or if someone's grieving, or that can come across. You can have distractibility and things like that. So you want to get the proper diagnosis. Once you get the proper diagnosis, then you can treat it properly. And everybody, treatment's very individual. That's between you and your doctor. And ultimately, it's what you decide to do. I mean, some people choose to use medications. Some people choose not to. In my particular case, I choose not to use medications. I do supplements. I work out. Exercise.
What are some of the supplements you use?
Well, I use some homeopathic treatments, Chinese herbs and things like that help settle my. Some of them have really long Chinese names, but
okay, you can share them if you don't mind. We deal with Cascara Sagrada. We use Chinese herbs as part of the holistic healing.
Well, holistic is how I choose to go, and part of the holistic is, I do acupuncture, and I do homeopathic treatments. I make sure that I have enough protein in my diet. Protein's really important for the brain. Exercise, yoga is great, meditation, prayer, just ways to settle yourself down. Once you have that awareness, it helps you not be so hard on yourself. So that takes away a lot of the anxiety. Goes away once you realize what's going on. So, sleep's really important for me. When I don't sleep, I actually can feel my brain just melting.
Right.
And it just stops functioning. I just can't function. So sleep, a proper diet. I mean, the things that make sense for everybody, but are really particularly important for someone with ADHD.
Right.
I have to exercise. It helps me with the endorphins, help my brain. And
talk a little about why exercise is so important. People think about it strictly from a physical external look, and losing weight, that's the driver that most people find in terms of exercise. I actually, when doing it consistently, jump on a trampoline. And
that's great.
And so talk about what endorphins do for the body and how that impacts, the brain, and how that helps, us being in, because you can jog, you can jump rope.
Absolutely. A trampoline is wonderful because that helps the lymphatic system, and that helps you with keeping your immune system up. For me, I like to do yoga. I like to do some cardio. I like to do some weight training. Exercise is not just physical. It's spiritual. It helps you spiritually. It helps you, mentally, emotionally. I just really think it helps the whole body. Mind, it really does.
Yes.
For me, it's something that I started doing when I was about 16, and I've done it ever since. And, it's helped me stay young looking. I am 55 years old. People are usually shocked by that.
55?
55. And for the Ms. America, you can be, I think, 26 and older. So I was competing against girls in their 20s.
Wow.
And so, it's been, and that's...
So you were 54 as Miss Virginia.
Yes, absolutely.
And you beat girls who were 20 years old, 21, 22, 23, 24.
Well,
20.
It's 26 and older.
26 and older.
26 and older that go to nationals.
Wow.
So the thing is, it's the fountain of youth, exercise, and as a title holder, I want to inspire women of all ages not to give up, it's not just about the ADHD or the other. There's so much to this that made me decide to run for Ms. America, just to be an inspiration to young and old. And, I thought about it, from a spiritual perspective. Beauty pageant has come to me since I'm in my early 20s, and I kept pushing it away. And when it came to me in my 50s, I thought there's a reason for this. And it's been like a God-given gift. I'm in a position that I can really influence people positively.
No doubt.
And so that's the reason I do it. It's really not about me. It's about helping other people.
Sure. And you made that crystal clear. So as we wrap up on the Peace in the Morning show, on Fridays, we have what we call Funky Friday.
Funky Friday.
And Funky Friday, we get in the groove, we do some freestyle, we actually dance, we get up, we salsa, we merengue, we do it all. I
like that.
We have a ball here on Funky Friday. But, we're also going to make today a little Funky Friday. So I'm going to ask you, if you wouldn't mind, would you please I think what you said, is maybe surprising to some, maybe not to others, but at 54, you ran for Miss Virginia and won. And so to be able to have the gumption to do that at that time in your life just spoke to, again, your self-awareness, your confidence. And so I want to encourage the other women, because women have been through a lot.
Absolutely.
Not that men haven't been through a lot, but women have been through a lot. They endure a significant amount more of abuse than men. Their self-esteem, not only the physical, we talked yesterday about the emotional abuse. This is National Suicide Prevention Month. Yes. But there are a lot of pressures on women to care for their families, to care for their children, to carry the weight and responsibility that they naturally carry just based on the fact that they were the maternal parent and they gave birth.
Absolutely.
So there's a physical, a spiritual, literal connection between the mothers. So, I just want to encourage mothers, women, to be able to still reach your goal and your passion and your life beyond what you're doing for other people. Absolutely. And that's so important. So would you mind putting your tiara, is that to pronounce the tiara?
My crown.
Would you mind putting your crown on so they can see you and then you have
I'm so proud of this. I received this from the White House, and I take it with me. I take it with me to schools. It is the White House, the Presidential Gold Medal for Volunteerism.
Wow.
It's for over 1,000 hours of community service.
Excellent.
I received this on stage at the Ms. America pageant, collectively as a group, all the women that were on stage.
Sure.
They were all amazing women, accomplished, beautiful. And we all received this from the White House during the Obama administration last year.
Oh, wow.
And
congratulations.
I'm so proud of it. Thank you. And
awesome.
I'm so proud of it, because I've been doing community service since I'm a very young person, feeding the homeless.
Sure.
Doing all kinds of things. And so I'm really proud of it. And I have my Ms. Virginia.
That's right. So we're going to put a little music on. And while you have on your tiara, you're going to just, turn it on. Because we got to make it. Got to make it, let me see, how's that sound?
Well, before we finish up, I wanted to let everyone know that October is ADHD Awareness Month, and that's coming up in a couple of weeks, so ADHD Awareness Month. Just educate yourself, because you may be wondering why that person sitting next to you is so different, and it could be because they have ADHD.
Right. Awesome. So we appreciate you being in the studio. Share with us again your Facebook page.
The ADHD Help and Hope Network. Ambassador for CHADD. That's www.chadd.org.
Okay, that's www.chadd.org. Excellent. Thank you so much. This has been a great opportunity to share some information, awareness, diagnosis, and treatment solutions. And we bring solutions here on the Peace in the Morning show. So we're going to, let me see, hit that beat a little bit to see what that feels like. When I'm in the studio, I can see that I'm gonna have to sing instead of rap, yo. Gotta make it sound nice, cause I'm sitting to a lady who's made and paid the price. She took herself and her family to the next level, yo. And she came this morning on the Peace in the Morning show. Marta Bota is with us, and we're happy to have you. We are thankful and grateful for your service and your duty to your country, to your family and the community. And you are doing it. Martabota 2016, Miss Virginia, she's with us. So support her, go to Chad, pull her up and make her glad. Because all the children in the world who are suffering from ADD and ADHD will be so happy to know that you found a solution for them right here on the Peace in the Morning Show. Peace in the Morning Show. Here we go. Miss Marta, we thank you for being with us today. Coming all the way from Virginia, and the traffic is rainy and kinda chaotic. But you made it, and you did it with a smile. Look at her, wow. She's my Miss Virginia 2016, Miss America on the scene. On the Peace in the Morning Show, Miss Marta Bota, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day from the Peace in the Morning Show.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
No
This
doubt.
has been amazing.
Awesome.
Amazing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for another edition of the Peace in the Morning Show here at www.elifemedia.net. And really excited about the fact that we had such a dynamic spirit. Externally, you see one thing, but on the inside, you know, the sun is truly shining in this spirit and this soul who is working to help people understand who they are. Find your passion. In a peaceful moment, I just want to share this with you. Find your passion and help others find their passion. And once you find it, pursue it. Understand the dynamics of the environment that you want to be in so that you can be successful in your passion. Walk in your own shoes. Don't walk in the shoes that other people don't walk in for you. Don't walk in the other shoes that people buy for you. Don't walk in the other shoes that people give you just because they provide you with a materialized lifestyle or they provide you with a job that has a great big title, but it's not really what you truly want to do. Yes, it may give you some of the material things. Yes, it may give you some of the external egotistical things that people kind of strive for, societal certificates and awards. But if your true passion, your spirit, your gift that God gave you is not being met, then you're leaving a whole lot on the table. And more importantly, you're leaving a lot of other people who have not found their passion. They're sitting on the sidelines, struggling in life every day because they haven't found their passion. So pursue your passion. Step into your own shoes. And once you step into them, run like crazy.
And be kind to yourself.
Be kind to yourself, no doubt. Well, thank you so much, Marta. We believe in that. Love yourself before you can love anyone else. And definitely be kind to everyone. Emotional intelligence is about treating people good.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us on Facebook Live. Thank you for sharing this show. Thank you for promoting it. Thank you for being here with us week in and week out here on the Peace in the Morning Show. We want to thank our engineer, Shaud, for his work in the studio. And tomorrow, the Men's Roundtable. We will be sharing the Men's Roundtable, talking about depression with men. In particular, we'll focus on males and depression during National Suicide Prevention Month. Suicide is the number 2 killer of African American males from 16 to 24 years old, but it affects everybody. Jerry West, the NBA All-Star Hall of Famer that played for the Los Angeles Lakers, says there's times he cannot even get out of bed. He's got money, he's got fame, he's got cars, houses, all the material things. None of that matters if you're depressed. And there are a lot of men who are depressed, and it's impacting themselves and their families and how they treat others. So join us tomorrow as we have the Men's Roundtable. Joe Braxton, another author, will be here to talk about his book in depression. And also our good brother Jeremy Newkirk to talk about the Wallway Improvement Tour coming up this weekend at the Howard Theater, September 17th, 12 to 8. Day party, improvement tour. Going to be a funky good time right here on the Peace in the morning show. All right. It's all right.
That's great.
Yes.
So great.
It's Mickey Freeman. It's Mickey